Police Squad in color. Starring Leslie Nielsen. Also starring Alan North. And Rex Hamilton as Abraham Lincoln. Tonight's special guest star, Robert Goulet.
Ready! Aim! Fire!
Tonight's episode, A Bird in the Hand.
Welcome to From the Files of Police Squad in color. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me is Mr. Chris Dashew.
Mike, I don't see your approved hat. Please take that sombrero off.
Also with us, of course, is Mr. Mark Begley.
Next week, we'll discuss 10 things you can do with a carrot.
On this episode, we are talking about the 5th episode of Police Squad, though it was broadcast 3rd. Man, oh man, oh man. And this is where we really start to get into this whole thing of Sally Decker and all the other people that were taken up to Statesville prison. It's like, come on, guys.
For what purpose? Who cares? They just go, and remember Sally Decker and da-da-da-da. It's like,
it's a great bit, though. I love it.
But to what end, I guess, is my point. They never do anything with it. Maybe they were thinking about doing something with it at some point.
It's kind of funny that they did it, and then it's really ignored by whoever decided to. I never noticed it until you mentioned it, Mike. And now every time I'm listening for how many names did they just say? And yes, it's very clear that he rattles off the previous 4.
Exactly.
If it had gotten to the end of the season and they had to literally rattle off like 30 goddamn names.
Right?
But I feel like that is what the payoff was, right?
Probably.
At some point, it's just like this overly expansive list of people that Hawken is just, and Frank at the end of it is just like, is that it, Ed? Like,
and Sally
Decker. Yeah.
Every single time.
That's what I feel like. That's what they were getting to with the gag. And I will agree to your point, Mike. It's funny that they have some sort of continuity in a comedy show. That's not in the mid 80s. That's not something anybody was worried about was continuity. Case in point, Barney Miller, Coal Shack, most of those shows, Columbo even.
This episode is called The Butler Did It. Kind of gives it away right there in the whole title. It is, where do we begin with this one? It is a kidnapping plot that takes place in a Japanese garden. It is the daughter of a very wealthy textile merchant. Of course, this actor, I've seen him a ton of times. Yeah, right after we talked about textile places. I'm trying to think of who this actor is. Is this Nicholas Coster?
He's the poor man. And whenever I see him, my first thought is, it's the mayor from Jaws. And then I have to kind of reconfigure my brain and go,
poor man's Murray Hamilton.
Yeah, Murray Hamilton.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy's been in a ton of stuff. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Garrett Graham, just a little bit around the eyes for some reason. But
I could see that.
Definitely not nearly as goofy as Garrett Graham.
He's no beef, baby.
So I have to ask right off the top, there's a sign in this party that's on the wall. Did you guys notice this? The sign behind Frank as he's walking through, behind this textile merchant as he's walking through his daughter's birthday party?
Thought it said happy birthday, so I ignored it because
there's that sign.
Oh, okay.
There's another sign that talks about hi, Howard. Oh, I can't remember who else was on the sign. It's like Gifford is one of them. I was thinking it was Frank Gifford, but it talks about Monday Night Football on the sign. What makes it stick out so much is that it takes forever for the first joke to even happen on this episode.
That's what I wrote down. And when
it does happen, it's a dumb joke. It's the whole, the cake blows away, but the candles are still there joke. And then you wait another few minutes until they go out into the Japanese garden where it's all of these Japanese people standing in pots. This whole episode, I'm just like waiting for the jokes. We talked about how this was a joke a minute every single episode, but this episode sorely disappoints in a lot of ways. I mean, there's some good bits to it. Yes, I definitely laughed quite a few times, But man, these jokes are kind of few and far between in this one.
I liked the something different joke, didn't you? That was really funny.
Which one's that?
Where he's like, play something different.
Ah, yes.
That's the first gag in the entire episode. And it pretty much sets the, no pun intended, sets the tune for the rest of the episode, which is, we're starting to run out of steam, guys.
Yeah.
That's why when I watched these last year or the year before, I probably watched this one as the 5th episode. That's why I felt like, by this time, after 4 episodes, it's really obvious that they're losing steam.
The gags go on for so long.
I noticed, and I even wrote in my notes, a long time without a gag. And then, like you say, the Kate gag is kind of flat. Everything in the house are groaners. Once they get out of there, it picks up a little bit. And then, I start falling behind on writing what the jokes are like usual. But yeah, that opening is just a snore fest.
It was he investigating crimes at a zoo, and it's the
there's a chimpanzee in the front seat.
That was pretty good.
The chimpanzee with a fedora on. It's fucking hilarious. I mean,
that's probably just the setup for the epilogue and the freeze frame. Yeah. Really, those first couple of episodes where they're implying, like you picked up on, Mike, that Frank may in fact be a serial killer or a criminal of some sort, right? Because he's always at the scenes where these horrible things are happening. I mean, he's a policeman, but he's not there as a policeman,
right,
when he gets the calls. And they've abandoned that already, which is odd.
I wonder if that's going to come back in the movies or not.
No.
Okay.
I can tell you with absolute certainty, the movies exist without all of this.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the first movie opens and he's in Los Angeles, right? That's the thing that I had forgotten about this show is it really feels like a set, and it's like so set bound. It's starting to wear on me a little bit now. I don't think it's part of the joke, but if I were making this show now, that would be part of the gag. The locations are being reused, but we're trying to fool the audience into thinking it's something different. I think that would be part of the gag now. What you could make it part of the gag, kind of a metatextual gag, to go along with the writing kind of taking a dive. They really make this feel the most set bound of any of the episodes. I can't believe that mime gag goes on for as long as it does. That was so shocking to me for a show and I guess 3 people whose joke styles are rapid fire. Every scene got to have something. That is the antithesis of the ZAZ writing style, is to just have a gag go for what seems like 5 minutes. I know it's not, but it goes on and on and on. And then when you think it's done, it keeps going. And I was just thinking to myself, Deborah Huang Marriott and Robert K. Weiss, for as middle of the road as Tito Insana and Robert Wool's episodes have been, this is just like they watched the other episodes or they watched Airplane and were like, okay, we can do this. No. It's a pale imitation of almost every other episode of this show.
Though there were some gags. I like the tapping of the phone. I like keep them on longer, and the way that she's asking all these ridiculous questions, especially when she gets to the math question. That's great. I agree. The stuff with the mime goes on for a little bit too long, though I was very happy that Peter Ebling, one of the Juicy Fruits
yeah.
Or one of Meat's backup guys or whatever band he's in.
Speaking of Garrett Graham.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of cool. I like the basketball stuff as well, where Frank ends up playing against the guy. I thought that was really good.
That looked like a real location to me, speaking of being set bound. One of the few.
Yeah,
one of the few in the entirety of this show.
Yeah, in the entirety of the show. That's what I meant.
And it has one of the better Act 2 gags. Act 2, Bull 3.
All 3.
That was good. Yes.
That is when you're doing something with what's already been laid out for you, they kind of nail it. The first gag of the episode, I would contend, is the Robert Goulet gag, which...
Yes, let's not forget that.
Yeah, very funny. Obviously, Robert Goulet will come back in the second movie. I think the Tommy Lasorda gag is pretty funny as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like all the other kind of quote original gags are just all over the place in a way that we really haven't seen. Most of the time they all feel the same, but the quality differs. This is like completely different kinds of gags, almost from a show not like this one.
The big gunfight at the end is so much his gunfight with Sally Decker.
Right.
They're across the street rather than it being that close. It was funnier when they were closer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the whole cover me thing where he throws the blanket over the captain and he runs over and starts tripping over things. I mean, that was kind of funny.
It goes on too long, though, and they even point that out in the commentary, like, oh, it's still going. There's a payoff, but it didn't need to go that long. And that's, I think, the complaint that we've all had on this episode is that the jokes play out too long.
Like, did we need to see the mime jump out the window the way he came in? Like,
no.
I mean, really? Like, you're going to devote any amount of time to that? Right. Or I couldn't figure out what the purpose, idea, need was behind the tuba gag. That, like, I mean, it's funny and it's very much a non sequitur, but it just, the second act entirely is just all of this stuff about tubas and El Tubadera and it's like,
I kind of love it.
Yeah, I like
tuba
it. It's just,
not tuba.
Yes.
It's the best gag kind of sequence in this entire episode. And it's unfortunate that it's in this episode because it kind of hews the closest to the tone of the first 4 episodes.
It reminds me of a better joke, which was when Homer gets the new boss or he starts working at a new place and it's Frank Scorpio.
Yeah.
Bond villain. Yeah. And Homer comes up with the brilliant idea that he thinks that a hammock at work would be great. And Scorpio's like, oh, yeah, we'll find you a hammock. And it's like, okay, well, where's the best place to get one? And he starts to list off all of these hammock places and they're all on like 5th Street or whatever. He's like, well, yeah, it's the hammock district, like that's good. That's really good. But yeah, the tuba stuff does go on for a little bit. And then I love Al having the tuba shirt on when he comes back in the episode later on.
With his sombrero on.
I think they've taken his sombrero off by that point. Correct?
Yeah. This was his second appearance on the show with the Tuba City shirt. I felt like in this one that Frank was a little denser than the previous episodes, which I kind of enjoyed. He does the Why Would the Lab Demand $1 million? He's done things like that before, but there was a lot more of that when the mime is going on. I think the best part of the mime scene is when he starts to do the charades. And again, Frank isn't catching on. And then, first word, and he says finger. And that had me laughing. That had me laughing out loud.
And I like Nordberg just guessing totally the wrong thing.
The best wrong answers. That's what kind of saves the mime thing going on for so long, is that Nordberg does continue to be funny throughout, which I think for me is one of the brighter spots of the episodes that feature him is the actor Peter Lupus, who plays Nordberg. He is definitely rising to the occasion around Frank Drebin and Ed Hawken for sure.
I also really liked the whole thing when North brings up getting an ear in the mail and just how upset the mother is and the way that they just keep talking about that ear.
And they'll be able to put it back on if they find her alive.
Oh, yeah. If they find her alive. Yeah.
Early on in the episode, we didn't mention this gag. I don't know how you guys felt about it. The gag where it's like, show me the abduction.
Yes.
Right. Show me the scene of the abduction.
Yes.
It reminded me so much of that. I think I've mentioned it at least on this show before, the gag from Spaceballs, the when will then be now, and them watching the movie. Like that's kind of in that same vein. I always appreciate those kind of weird, you're watching the movie with us type gags. I appreciated that. But then you have almost everything else in the first third of this episode is just, all right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
This time I was trying to pay attention as far as him hitting garbage cans. And of course he doesn't hit any garbage cans, though he does hit 4 bicycles. So I'm wondering if that, well, actually, I guess it would have to be 5 bicycles.
I think it was, but they crop it again.
Oh.
Well, he hit the trash cans out of frame, right?
He hits the bicycles in one shot when he's coming to the basketball court, and then he hits a mailbox later on.
He hits the bikes, and I thought, okay, hold on. And they don't really show it when he hits them. There's at least 4. Yeah. And then I thought, okay, look for the wide shot. but they were on the ground. And I'm assuming, and I think they comment about it on the commentary. Oh, that should be 5 bikes if it's not, blah, blah, blah. And then, yes, he does hit 2 garbage cans in the mailbox later on. So, which I think is a separate gag. It's funny to note now, realizing that these are out of order, that Nordberg is not introduced in this episode. This would have been his first appearance because he's not in the first 2 episodes. And he's just there in the background and they all already know him. So there's that kind of gaffe, as well as the, naming of the previous criminals at the end. And then there's one other example of recognizing that it's out of order, and I'll have to check my notes to figure out what it is. But there is one other indication of, this isn't shown in the right order.
They really trot out the big names for the Johnny's Next Customer bit with fucking Tommy Lasorda of all
that
people.
Was great.
Which is funny because then the show would go on to be set, of all places, in LA, where Tommy Lasorda is. And then is it in a Dodgers game, for fuck's sake, in the first movie. So I don't think, though, if memory serves me right, Tommy Lasorda doesn't show up in the movie. Maybe,
I'm not sure. I mean,
I don't
obviously
remember.
Reggie Jackson does, but I'm not sure who else.
I must kill the queen. Yes, he sure.
I think Enrico Colazzo.
Yeah, famous Italian singer Enrico Palazzo. Yeah. Looks distinctly like Leslie Nielsen.
So strange.
But different people, from what I've been told.
Right. Yeah, and I did like Johnny chiding him for treating up Tommy John. That was pretty good. I was like, that's a nice sore spot there. That's good.
I think it was an interesting third act, but overall, just, man, the 2 writers on this episode, just not, I don't know. What's weird is, like, they worked on plenty of other things. Robert Weiss has a bunch of credits on Naked Gun and a bunch of Weird Al music videos.
Well, and the teleplay was by Pat Proft, who we've talked about before, and he kind of was involved in a lot of these episodes and a lot of these shows that the ZAZ guys did.
And yet this episode is just not much. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not funny, but it's just, of all the episodes we've watched up until this point, I don't think I'm out of line to say this is the worst one.
No, we'll have to wait for the next episode to say
right. Fair. The episode that's so good it doesn't even have a synopsis on Wikipedia. It's 2 fucking sentences, and that's it. And again, I think it does kind of answer our question without giving us an answer directly as to what this show would have been if it had kept going. It takes a special kind of writing trio or duo or singular writer to create a comedy that is funny throughout, that is quality throughout, but mixes the styles of comedy, visual gags, wordplay, stuff like that. It's not a shock that everybody can't do this because ZAZ were so good at it. That's why they kept doing it. Robert Wool and Tino Insana get close, but even their stuff is replete with literalism upon literalism upon literalism. At least there isn't a lot of that in this episode. There's just not much at all.
Yeah, it just feels very thin.
They mentioned the problems with doing this for TV and having the different writers, comedy writers, and comedy directors. I think they really wanted, at least for the directors, people that had worked on things like cop shows and Westerns. Because as we've mentioned in talking about Airplane and in the previous episodes of this, they're really straight shows. This is a takeoff on those 60s cop shows and how dry and dull some of them can be. They're making the mistake of having comedy writers that really aren't following their notes, their rules, trying to write jokes instead of making the situations funny or making I don't recall, and I missed that sign at the beginning completely. I don't recall a lot of visual gags in this one, which a lot of times are, for me, the most interesting. Other than Frank being dumber than usual, it just wasn't that funny this go around. I liked it when he was really dumb. Those were good jokes, and he played it super straight. There's a little bit of that mugging creeping in with that basketball game, even though the basketball game is cool and it's kind of nice to see that he could actually handle himself fairly decently in that scene.
He and his stunt person could.
Yeah, I mean, but even just when he's trying to talk to the guy and they're going around the court, it didn't look
right. Yeah,
tilted or
yeah.
I don't know if he made that one shot or not, but not the layup, but the one from a distance. It kind of looked like that might have been okay. They may have had somebody, they might have done a Texas switch with the ball, but
drop the ball.
But
it went in.
It looked pretty good to me.
Again, it was just nice to see something that didn't look like it was on Universal's back lot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The streets of nondescript downtown of a big city. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It could be Chicago. I guess this is set in Chicago. We've kind of established that, I guess.
They're also, at that gas station. That's a real street. I believe it didn't look like a set to me when they clue into the whole ringing bells and tuba sounds. They make that connection at the gas station there. So
that's probably around the corner in Studio City somewhere. Studio City somewhere. Yeah, everybody knows that gas station down there in Studio City. That's where they get their smokes, I'm sure. Something to that effect.
And I believe the beach scene with all the girls in bikinis is a real location.
Oh, God. Oh, God. That was hilarious. Such a strange insert shot that was.
Yeah. That didn't really work for me.
No, that was pretty stupid.
So what do we have this time for the lab? What inappropriate behavior is Mr. Olsen partaking in?
Well, this is the one. Well, you mentioned the carrots.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what he's doing with the kid when Frank comes in.
It's the gravity experiment.
Yeah, the one where the guy is suspended with the bricks.
The bowling ball or something like that. Yeah. I didn't really think that was that funny.
Yeah, it's kind of a dud.
Yeah.
Comparatively, I mean, again, comparatively,
the carrot line's okay.
Yeah, the carrot line's funny, but comparatively to the other things, it's not funny. But on its own, it's not funny. Like,
right,
you're gonna drop a guy and kill him. All right,
yeah,
sure. Like, it's funnier when he's creepier.
Oh yeah. Yeah, even when he says things that you can do with carrots, I'm like, okay, well, I can think of at least one kinky thing you can do with carrots, but it's not like grab something from your mother's produce drawer or something. I mean, there was nothing. It should almost always be the mother jokes, I think.
And everybody knows the kinkiest thing to do with carrots is turn it into raisin carrot salad. No actual human being eats that dish. Best I can tell.
So I had to look this up because I remembered this thing about the sign that I was talking about. If you go to the Wikipedia page about the first episode, the Sally Decker episode, one of the bits on this page is actually incorrect. It says alternate versions. In its initial airing on ABC, Drebin could be seen walking in front of a homemade banner greeting Howard, Frank, and Dandy Don, mimicking similar banners seen greeting the broadcasters on ABC's Monday Night Football syndicated reruns and video releases. Oh, syndicated reruns and video releases omitted the banner. That's the banner. It's not Drebin walking in front of it, and it's not this episode. So maybe they just had them in more than one episode, but
You're supposed to poke fun at the Monday Night Football gang?
Yeah, I guess so. The only thing I could think of is that they kept moving them around as far as what nights they were showing them, or waiting a few months between episodes. So between March 25th and the 1st of July to show those last two episodes.
Well, it was just such a funny gag. The first time we had to keep it around.
Yeah.
The fifth one.
But I've never seen that banner except for this 5th episode. So strange.
Well, we do get a change up on the old cigarette gag, at least this time.
Coffee,
I know. Yes, I know. And I thought, still don't like it.
Why they didn't just have it be a cigarette is beyond me. But
I'm tired of this joke already.
Right.
And what's funny is, unless I'm misremembering, there's no cigarette gag in the first movie, which is surprising, given that it has shown up in every single episode in some form or fashion. They may do something else, but there's no thing with a cigarette, at least. It might be, pen or something else, What's a hospital? It's the same shit. I mean, it's, you know,
Right.
it's effectively the same thing. Well, they do that in this episode, don't you? Know, what do you do? And he's well,
What do I do? What do I do?
Well, best I can
believe-
tell, you're a manufacturer of textiles. That
Right.
is funny.
That is a good
that's
one.
a funny gag.
That's
That will
good.
never not be funny. Yeah, the coffee. I know. Like, oh my god, really, guys? Like, was that part of the style Bible for the show? You got to have one of these in every
Mhm.
episode.
We had a little bit of the not gays with Nordberg and the captain this episode. I don't know if anybody caught that after they win the mime charade game. Nordberg hugs the captain, says, "We did it, Captain." And the captain kind of goes, "Not now, Nordberg."
Hey, man, it was the mid '80s.
I don't recall
Yeah.
any of that in the other episodes with Nordberg and the captain,
That's funny.
but maybe I missed it. That
Yeah.
is entirely possible.
And I do really like the freeze frame gag with the chimpanzee. They're throwing stuff around and them just trying to not break as that chimp is just partially destroying the set.
I've seen Nope. Mark's
Yeah.
seen Nope.
All I
I don't
can
want to be
think of-
anywhere near a chimpanzee on a set, man.
That is all I can think of now when I see that.
Any sudden noises, or this chimp may rip your fucking face off.
And whose shoe is going to end up sticking straight up in the air?
Yeah.
Fuck that. I'm good.
Nordberg's.
I'm real good. I don't need to see that version of the show where they're getting murdered by a murderous chimp. Thank you. Though, to be fair, they left the cameras rolling. It might be funnier than this episode.
Yeah, true.
We do have kind of another repeat joke at the end. And this was a groaner for me with the black and white is here.
So,
you know, we've had the-
Yeah.
We've had the play on words with the, this is take them away. And
Booker. Yeah.
Runner in. That was the other one.
yeah,
Runner
the other
in.
one, runner in.
Mm.
That was bad.
What really gets me though is that obviously the title of the show is The Butler Did It, and that's who does this crime. But his reasoning is just like, I needed the money. And I'm like, okay, like I wanted something more. I wanted at least like a ridiculous thing. Like I needed money to buy Cupid dolls or something bizarre like that. Give me something for why you needed this money.
Give me something for having watched 21 minutes of this episode.
Yeah, give me
25 minutes.
something.
Oh, yeah.
TV was longer back then.
Not as many commercials.
It really doesn't feel like they were putting their best foot forward or a foot forward, really.
I mean, the glove
Cat-
box joke.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, the glove box joke, and then the whole thing with the car being smaller. Wait, no, that's the next episode.
There was a glove box gag in that one, too.
That's right. This one was the glove box that is just
Had all the
filled with
gloves.
Yes, that was good.
I believe I've seen that joke before. Or since, at least.
I don't know. The best gag in this episode is still the Japanese garden.
That was pretty good.
I
What
don't
does
know
he
about that.
rip off of
His
the one
lapel.
Japanese man? The lapel, so she can like wipe her.
She sniffs it like it's a flower petal or something.
Yeah, like she picked it from the garden.
That's kind of an
Weird.
oddball. Yeah, I was like, why is he tearing that off? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess they're fragrant.
Yeah.
That for me is where they take the gag in the right direction, is they up the ante with it. So I'm
Mhm.
interacting with it, not just hanging a lantern on a bunch of like poor Japanese people standing in clay pots in your garden.
Mhm.
So
Though I did like, speaking of Asian people, he Frank holds that Asian woman hostage when the butlers got the girl hostage and took him play at that game.
Just kind of tosses that lady aside afterward, too.
that is a
Exactly.
gag that will return.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yes, it will.
That's in one of the movies for sure.
I think it may be the first one right at the end.
Gosh, it's been so many years since I've seen these movies. It's going to be very interesting going back.
I'm excited. I'm really excited, having watched all of this now as kind of a primer for that movie. Also, it may make those movies not as successful, which is what I'm worried about more
Right,
than anything
yeah.
else.
Well, that's the first one wasn't successful for me because I think it's 90% recycled stuff.
A lot
But,
of it is. A lot
yeah.
of it is. I mean, a lot of the gags from the show do show up in the first one, but they're throughout the second and third one. And again,
Mhm.
Robert Goulet shows up in the second
Right.
movie.
Well, Goulet was funny. It was kind of like having Wayne Newton in the Adventures of Ford Fairlane.
Is it?
Yeah. You've never seen
I've never seen.
Wow. Do you think Father Malone's seen that movie?
Probably.
Okay.
He has seen. I have not.
Okay. You're going to have to start your own YouTube channel.
I guess so. I have never seen that movie, but I have seen the other movie that Wayne Newton is in, National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation.
Oh, boy.
I love that movie. I don't care if anybody doesn't like it.
That's fine.
But
I've
he's
never
fun.
seen it.
Oh, it's diminishing returns, but you had to have seen it you had to have seen it like I did on DivX in the mid 90s. So,
well, I saw European Vacation. That's the only one I've ever watched beginning to end.
Really?
Yes.
You've never seen Christmas Vacation?
No, not once.
Wow. Interesting.
Is Vegas the one where the original daughter comes back?
No.
That's,
okay. I don't know which one that is.
Okay.
Oh, you're thinking of Christmas Vacation 2.
Oh, probably.
Where they're on an island.
2?
Yeah.
There's Christmas Vacation 2, and it's like Randy Quaid.
It's all Randy Quaid.
Oh,
yeah. It's like a
is that
straight to
Eddie's
DVD
Revenge
sequel
or something.
Well, they get stranded on an island for Christmas. They're like going somewhere for Christmas, and the plane crashes in the middle of the ocean, and so they're like on an island in the middle of nowhere for Christmas. Doesn't it sound like a good idea to be stuck in the middle of nowhere on an island with Randy Quaid?
Maybe like mid 90s Randy Quaid, but like now Randy Quaid, I'd be afraid.
You would be the one being eaten by Randy Quaid.
Yes.
We got really hungry and we just started eating people. You've been gone a week. I know. Like that would be Randy Quaid. Just like, yeah, well, yeah.
It happened.
Yeah, it happened. They were just, my God. There was one other vacation movie, the most recent vacation movie.
Oh, the remake?
The reboot.
Or or like sequel. It's a sequel.
It's a sequel because it's family. It's what's his name all grown up.
Oh,
he's supposed to be the son. Yeah. Whatchamajiggy, the dude from The Office.
Right.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, I don't think you're missing anything by not having seen any of the vacation movies other than Christmas Vacation. At this point, you're probably past it having any like meaning in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, because there's still funny bits from that movie, but I don't think anybody's life is not better by not having seen Chevy Chase scream at people for an hour and a half.
Yeah. I could have that anytime.
Yeah, right. Just go ask people about Chevy Chase who worked with him. Oh, yeah, he screamed at me all the time.
Anything else we want to talk about this episode, gentlemen?
There were a lot of off-color OJ jokes in the commentary. If you guys want to go
really?
listen to
Oh boy.
They notice Peter Lupus and Nordberg, and they're trying to figure out, well, which episodes was he on? Was he on all of them and all this stuff? And they're like, he wasn't violent enough, so we got OJ for the movies. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty bad jokes.
Sounds pretty blue to me.
They mention giving him a set of steak knives as a gift,
boy.
And such and such.
Jeez.
Thanks, guys.
That poor guy's still out there trying to find the real killer.
Yeah.
And
did you know that he's a single guy now?
I know, it's crazy.
There was a TikTok that OJ posted where he's like, my day as a single guy. And the comments were like, OJ, you're single. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want, man?
I did see him trying to get reinstated on Twitter to get his blue check mark back.
I have an OJ Simpson Twitter account. That's my Twitter account. I am verified OJ Simpson Twitter account. Yeah. You can pay for those things now like candy.
That's great.
$10. Daddy Elon will give you whatever you want. I'm Frank Drebin on Twitter now. Who cares? This episode is indicative of, I think, what we would have gotten if the show had continued 2 episodes more.
I mean, we'll talk about the unmade 7th episode when we come back next week and discuss the final episode of Police Squad Testimony of Evil. Until then, Chris, why don't you tell people where they can find all of our shows?
WeirdingWayMedia.com is where you, your friends, family, people you don't know, random people on the street that you want to bother, you can listen to our shows at WeirdingWayMedia.com. All you got to do is type that in. And then you'll find my show, The Culture Cast, Mike's show, The Projection Booth, Mark's show, Wake Up Heavy, and this one as well. And you can find all those over at weirdingwaymedia.com. And if it's not there, well, you probably shouldn't be listening to it anyways.
Tune in next week for another exciting story from the files of Police Squad.